In today's Leeds news, Piroe's summer options FIFA Homegrown rule would hit Leeds hard. Investors' Leeds explanation. Major Burnley change ahead of Leeds game. And Ramazani exit and fee. Hey folks, welcome to the Leeds View for Thursday the 30th of April with your Leeds United news. Hope you're all doing well. Jerry here. There's a bit of stuff to get stuck into. It's all kicked off ahead of tomorrow night's game. Scott Parker's dismissal from Burnley has just been confirmed. We'll give you the update on that. We did cover it last night in the podcast of Farke versus Parker. That little part of the podcast is now slightly irrelevant. We did cover the detail around what we're looking at going into Friday night's game and the other clubs that are in and around us. What they have to face, and what could be a very big week for Leeds. And also we had a look at the more concrete transfer stories that we covered on yesterday's news in a bit more detail on what Leeds are likely to do heading into what could be a very impactful summer rather than necessarily overly busy summer from the club. But there is a bit of stuff to get stuck into today. There's a few exit stories. We'll start off with one that's around Joel Piroe. According to several reports now at this stage and information that we've known for a while, Leeds United will allow Joel Piroe to move away from the club this summer once the transfer window opens. And we know that Joel Piroe back in January said that he would consider his options at the club once the summer came around. That's where we are right now. According to Team Talk, Piroe has two parties that are interested in bringing him in at this point, in Glasgow Rangers and in Middlesbrough. Now, Piroe goes into the final year of his contract at Leeds United this summer, and he's probably the more obvious name of players that Leeds United are likely to move on this summer if they are to make some room in the squad for new additions to try and upgrade the entirety of that squad. He's played very few minutes for Leeds this season, so he does seem like the very obvious choice. Now, Middlesbrough is an interesting one for him because they have an outside chance of making that top two in the Championship. It's a very outside chance. They would need a lot of dominoes to fall in their favour if they are to get there. But if it was a case that Ipswich lost at home to QPR and Millwall lost at home to Oxford and they beat Wrexham away, Middlesbrough will clinch that second spot in the Championship and get automatic promotion to the Premier League. So he might find his way back into the Premier League with Middlesbrough. They do have the playoffs as well, but that will all be decided this weekend in a very exciting end to the Championship. But if he does decide to go there, that'll be an interesting move for him. He's a proven entity in the Championship if they stayed there. Glasgow Rangers at this point feels more like a link because of the ownership model, and that hasn't really translated into any player moving north or south from either club at this point. So it'd be an interesting one to see, but he is the obvious player that would likely move on this summer, just given the lack of minutes and the amount of strikers Leeds have been linked with already over the last couple of months. Does say that Leeds are likely to look at a change in that position. Right, let's move on and talk about a rule change that might hit Leeds pretty hard. Everyone's favourite international organisation, FIFA, and Leeds are one of two Premier League clubs that have not fielded a single homegrown under-21 player this season. And FIFA are now indirectly or directly coming after clubs like Leeds United with a new rule that could potentially come in the next 12 months. FIFA are currently consulting on a new rule that would force every club to have a homegrown under-21 player on the field of play at any given minute. And if it passes, it's not a minor tweak, it is a fundamental change to how Leeds United have built their matchday squads and how they approach transfer windows. Leeds would have to start putting far more investment and faith in the academy players than they have been up until this point, outside of the likes of Sam Chambers, although he hasn't played this year, Archie Gray, Harry Gray to a degree last year, but this season, absolutely nobody. But this is how this rule will break down and could affect Leeds. So this is not just an addition to a matchday squad. This would mean that a player under 20 or under 21 would have to be on the pitch at all times. And this change hasn't been confirmed just yet, but the proposal goes to the FIFA Council within the next 12 months. But according to reports, all 6 Confederation presidents are all said to be backing this move. So it has a fair amount of momentum behind it and traction. So it's coming down the road whether we like it or not. The details of this still need to be worked out. What the actual definition of a homegrown player will be under this new rule. And FIFA are said to want younger, locally developed players getting regular club football. And as I say, Leeds have been singled out by an Athletic article on this. And you can see the graph on screen right now. Leeds and Burnley are the only two Premier League clubs who haven't played a single homegrown player under 21 in the entire season. So if the rule change does come in, it would be a major change of approach for how Daniel Farke has built his squad. Leeds have gone for more experienced players from the continent in order to put this team together right now, and that would have to change. You'd have to have a couple of under 21 homegrown players in your squad, because if one comes off, one has to come on to replace him. So it is a strange and unusual change that Leeds would have to adopt. Now, Premier League clubs on this are said to be pretty split on whether they want it or not. Some of them are in favour of it. You can guess who. And that then brings us to a bigger story, which would be what are FIFA going to do to clamp down on, in inverted commas, bigger clubs poaching young talent from academies. Manchester City being the obvious one, who have raided academies all over England in the past couple of years to bring in the best homegrown talent, one from Leeds United and Finlay Gorman as well. So they would have to do something there to make sure that these players can't just be taken at 15 and 16, because the best players are playing at lesser clubs, again in inverted commas. The big boys will come in, nick them, throw a few money towards the family, and off they go. So yeah, a fundamental change is needed, but there also needs to be more protection around academy assets and players, I want to call them that, at clubs around the UK at this moment in time. So yeah, more round to run on that one for now at least. Let's move on. I'll chat about one of Leeds United's investors and why they decided to pick the club. And as we know, Leeds United investors last week, IDC Sports, acquired a minority stake in Atletico Madrid. We covered that last week, but their owners, the parent company of the IDC, A.Gain, who made the initial investment in both clubs, have been explaining their decision to invest in Leeds United and what the potential future could hold for the club. Now, their CEO is a guy called Bobby Aikenhead. He's a former basketball player, and he is the co-founder of A.Gain, who own IDC. And he was recently speaking with City AM and explained why they decided to invest in Leeds United. And he said the following: "We think of Leeds as the sleeping giant of Europe. There's so many data points. Like when you look at them in the Championship, they sold more shirts than 5 Premier League clubs combined. And when I finally got to a game, Leeds felt like Atletico. Real loyal fans, hard-working people that love their team, love their city, and show up in masses of families, from grandparents to young kids. It really represents the city. We've been fortunate to go to lots of stadiums in the UK, Spain, and World Cups. And the feeling at Leeds has got to be up there with the teams in terms of energy." A.Gain plan to add 2 to 3 more clubs to their investment pool. They're looking at a magic number of 7 in total, but they are mindful of the scale of their investments and how it falls into multi-club ownership models and the issues that that's had with lots of clubs over the past 12 months or so. Teams have lost places in Europe. Crystal Palace massively impacted by that last season. So they are looking to tread the line between investment and full multi-club ownership at this point, and that classification is really, really important. They are, at this point, just a minority stakeholder in Leeds United as part of the 49ers Enterprises pool and a minority stakeholder in Atletico Madrid. So right now, no major impact, no major influence on either side, but they do have plenty of cash to throw around, and it'll be interesting to see how that cash is being used from a Leeds United perspective. A.Gain manages a portfolio of $1 billion of assets, so they're not short of a few pennies. So it'll be interesting to see, along with Drakopoulos, who's come into the club in the last couple of months, what Leeds are doing with that investment heading into the summer and into next season. Does it go into the squad? Does it go into the stadium investment? Where does it sit? And what do Leeds finances look like? And we won't see that until the next set of finances are released in March next year. So bit of ground to run on that as well. Let's move on and talk about a major change before tomorrow night. We spent part of last night talking about Daniel Farke's record against Scott Parker and how this game was an important game for Leeds United. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere this morning, Burnley decide that this is the right time to get rid of Scott Parker as their manager. Burnley's relegation, as we all know, has been confirmed for a couple of weeks now. But in reality, they haven't really looked like they were ever going to stay in the Premier League this season. So it's a really odd time at this moment in time with 4 games to go and make that change. Steven Gerrard's name's been floating around all week. He's been linked with a move to Burnley as their next manager. When this first came out this morning, I personally thought, well, maybe they're going to give Gerrard a chance to assess the squad between now and the end of the season. But that's not the case, because in Burnley's statement, Michael Jackson will take hold of the side until the end of the season. Cue obvious Michael Jackson jokes at this point. So yeah, bit of an odd one. Dismissing Scott Parker 24 hours before they play Leeds United. Maybe they're looking for a new manager bounce. Like, it'll make any difference to their league position. But yeah, in one sense, it's probably a good thing for Leeds' perspective, because Daniel Farke hasn't beaten Scott Parker and hasn't been able to get one over on him. But Parker has been taking training all week for Burnley. So interesting one to see what will happen going into tomorrow night. But it does add a level of uncertainty now heading into tomorrow night's game. I don't like that at this point of the season, but then that's just me being nervous. But anyway, we'll move on. Another update on Largi Ramazani's future at Leeds United. And according to reports, Leeds will not stand in the way of Largi Ramazani staying at Valencia next season, as long as they get the valuation and fee that they want for the winger. According to RM Valencia, Leeds are said to be open to negotiations that Valencia looked for earlier this week, but Leeds see him as a player with a valuation of between 10 to 12 million euro. That's about 8.5 to 10 million pounds. That's one side. There's another report that comes out from Sebastian Vidal, and he said Leeds will allow Ramazani to move, but they want minimum £10 million for him. Now, that is the first part, but RM Valencia also confirmed there are several clubs in Italy keeping a close eye on Ramazani and will be interested in making a move for him this summer. So 10 million feels like a very base price right now, a minimum expectation from Leeds. If more clubs get involved in this, you'll likely see that fee go up and would be put Leeds in a strong position. Vidal says that Leeds want to at least recoup their investment that they made in Largi Ramazani, but he doesn't have a future at the club. Benfica isn't going to use him. He's allowed him to go out on loan this season. So regardless whether we like Ramazani or not, and I very much do like Ramazani, he doesn't seem to have a future under the current management structure at the club, so he is likely to move on. But Leeds will need to try and bring in as much money as they possibly can to try and reinvest that into a player who will have a part to play in next season's squad. Let's go into the rumour mill territory and an update on Ayase Ueda. So earlier this week, we heard the link return of Feyenoord striker Ayase Ueda, and his name's popped up again from a new report coming from Graham Bailey this time. Bailey claims that Leeds United and Everton are the front runners to try and bring Ueda to their clubs this summer, and he's gone on to say that his sources have revealed to him today that Leeds United scouts, along with Everton, Tottenham and Brighton, have all been watching the Feyenoord striker's progress very closely over the last 12 months. His current transfer market value is said to be in and around €13 million, so about 13-ish to 14 million pounds. That's again his transfer market value. If more clubs get involved, that's likely to be a higher fee if Leeds were to sign him. He's a very good striker. He's a good age for Leeds, experienced. He's had a very strong year again in the Dutch Premier League. Interesting to see whether Leeds move for him or not. He wouldn't fit that 6-foot+ striker mould, so Leeds might be looking at 2. But it is an interesting one for Leeds to have a look at. He's had a really, really strong season this year. He's been good for Japan as well. So, yeah, interesting to see, but it is coming from Graham Bailey, so we'll add it to the list and we'll see how it goes coming into the summer. You can add the skepticism to that one if you want to. That'll be it from me today, folks. So massive thanks, as always, for supporting the channel. You can download Finalysis using the QR code in the bottom right-hand corner, or you can use the link that is down below in the description on screen right now if you want to. And you can check out last night's podcast, of which we talked about Scott Parker for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. The rest of it's just about the match and also transfer. So you can check that out, myself and Paul, if you want it. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll talk to you later on. See ya. Bye.